Think back maybe 20 years ago. If a student got stuck on a math problem or a history essay, they basically had three choices, right? Wait it out, ask a buddy, or ask the teacher. But today is completely different. Every single kid is walking around with something humanity has literally never possessed before: instant, on-demand access to almost unlimited intelligence. Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We're going to be looking at Dr. Nikolaos Bogiannidis' truly groundbreaking framework called the Human AI Learning Ecosystem. We're going to explore how we are completely rethinking education for an age where intelligence is, practically speaking, infinite. So here's a quick roadmap for our agenda today. We'll kick things off with the fourth educational revolution. Then we'll see why trying to solve yesterday's problem just isn't working. Next, we'll unpack the 6 ecosystem principles, break down the learning equation, and finally take a peek into the classroom of tomorrow. Section 1. The fourth educational revolution. Let's trace how this builds over time, because to really get the sheer magnitude of what's happening right now, we have to look back at history. Education has gone through 3 massive revolutions before this moment. In ancient history, the invention of writing meant knowledge could actually survive generations. Fast forward to the 15th century, the printing press arrives, making knowledge accessible to the masses. Then, late 20th century, boom, the internet. Knowledge became completely connected globally. But today we're crossing the threshold into the 4th revolution, conversational AI. For the very first time ever, knowledge actually interacts. You're not just passively reading, you are literally having a back-and-forth dialogue with it. The AI responds, it asks you questions, it adapts. It is totally historically unprecedented. Section 2. Solving yesterday's problem. Now, despite this massive historical leap, the knee-jerk reaction in a lot of schools has been, well, panic and bans. For centuries, our whole educational architecture was built on one huge assumption: knowledge scarcity. Information was locked away in very specific, hard-to-reach containers, books, university libraries, the minds of experts. But we are living in a completely new reality of knowledge abundance. Intelligence is everywhere, and it's conversational. So the modern problem we're facing isn't getting access to information anymore. The real problem today is making sense of all that information. And let's be honest, you absolutely cannot solve that with better cheating detection software. You need a completely new theory of learning. Now, what's really interesting about this shift is that it forces us to ask a radically different question. Instead of asking, how do we stop students from using AI, Dr. Bogiannidis suggests we should be asking, how do we design learning when intelligence is no longer scarce? It's a real game changer. It shifts all our energy away from trying to ban a tool and redirects it toward redesigning the whole system for the world we actually live in. Section 3, the 6 ecosystem principles. To actually pull this off and design this new reality, we need to understand the core architectural rules of this ecosystem. Principle 1 is foundations before freedom. Look, there's this really common misconception floating around that because AI can just answer anything, kids don't need to learn the basics anymore. Actually, scratch that. The reality is the exact opposite. AI massively increases the need for strong foundational knowledge, literacy, math, deep subject expertise. Think about something you're an expert in. AI just amplifies what you already know. But without those foundations, AI is just a crutch. With them, it becomes pure cognitive amplification. Dr. Bogiannidis hits the nail on the head here with this perspective. Knowledge has not become obsolete. Knowledge has become leverage. Think about how cool that is. The fundamental building blocks of learning are literally more powerful now than ever before, simply because students can use them as leverage to direct an infinite intelligence. Moving right along to Principle 2, AI as the patient, more knowledgeable other. Over a century ago, the theorist Lev Vygotsky said learning happens best when you have a more knowledgeable other helping you out. Historically, that was always the teacher. But today, AI steps in as this infinitely patient tutor. It never gets tired, it never gets frustrated. It just continuously adapts its explanations to meet a student exactly where they are, right in their zone of proximal development. It closes the gap between being confused and totally getting it. And the best part? It completely frees up human teachers to do the stuff only humans can do: build relationships, cultivate wisdom, and guide a student's judgment. And this brilliantly illustrates the shift happening in Principles 3 and 4. We are breaking away from the old industrial education model. Fixed timelines, standardized pacing, stressful tests that actually interrupt the learning process. Instead, we're moving toward ecosystem learning. Pacing becomes adaptive. The curriculum stretches and breathes based on mastery. And this is my absolute favorite part. Assessment just becomes a continuous, invisible conversation. You get real-time guidance from AI while teachers keep a watchful eye. The finish line basically disappears, and learning just becomes a state of constant natural growth. Principles 5 and 6 bring the whole ecosystem together: innovation and agency. Classrooms literally turn into innovation studios. A lesson starts with foundational knowledge, sure, but it ends with creation. You're actively using that knowledge to build things. And the most profound shift of all is student agency. Students take on this deep, self-directed ownership of their learning. So instead of just passively looking at the teacher and asking, hey, what do I do next? They look at a complex problem and ask themselves, okay, what do I need next? Section 4, the learning equation. So the crucial point is, how do all these pedagogical principles seamlessly fit together? Well, Dr. Bogiannidis created a wonderfully simple additive equation for it. It's like a giant puzzle. You take knowledge, which is your rock-solid foundation. You add human relationships, which give you that vital connection. Then you add artificial intelligence as the ultimate accelerator. Finally, you add learner agency as the driver. Combine all of those, and the ultimate result, human flourishing. But notice how delicate this balance is. If you remove even one of those components, the entire learning ecosystem weakens. Section 5, the classroom of tomorrow. We've talked a lot of theory, but what does this practically mean on the ground? A huge concern for a lot of folks is, wait, what happens to teachers in an AI-driven world? Let me reassure you right now, they become vastly more important. Educators move away from those old roles as mere information providers or rigid curriculum deliverers. Instead, they step into these massive new roles as learning architects and ecosystem builders. They transition from handing out answers to designing truly brilliant questions. AI doesn't replace teachers. No way, it exponentially increases the value of excellent teaching. Because at the end of the day, AI doesn't just change the classroom. It fundamentally changes the learner. And once the learner changes, the whole system of education has to shift its focus. Our goal isn't just deciding what content to deliver anymore. The goal is developing highly capable individuals. We need to build ecosystems that cultivate learners who are fiercely curious, relentlessly adaptive, ethical, creative, and totally self-directed. In this classroom of tomorrow, kids might be working at different speeds, exploring totally different paths, but they remain deeply anchored together through shared human values. I want to leave you with this incredibly provocative final thought from Dr. Bogiannidis. Perhaps history will not remember this decade as the time artificial intelligence entered education. Perhaps history will remember it as the moment education finally became truly human. Wow, what a phenomenal way to look at it. AI isn't here to turn us into robots or strip away our humanity. It's the exact catalyst we've been waiting for to make learning deeply personalized, wonderfully adaptive, and profoundly human. So, as intelligence becomes literally infinite all around us, what kind of human will you choose to become? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those great questions and stay endlessly curious.